Greetings hex and counter players, and welcome to my introduction to the basic game rules of GMT games, MBT or Main Battle Tank. This is a physical hex and counter game which can be played on Vassal or Tabletop Simulator. Of course, I would recommend getting a physical copy of the game because the map and counters look so much better in real life than they do in the digital format. Although it probably could be easier to find an opponent online via these methods rather than in real life, so it's just another option. MBT was a follow-on to the very popular Panzer series. And in fact, Panzer has recently released Panzer North Africa, which also includes the base module. So it is not an expansion, but a whole game in itself. It is true that learning a physical board game, you have to learn far more detail, say, than your digital equivalent. But there is a certain satisfaction in rolling the dice, looking up the tables and getting more involvement in the crunchy bits of the game. So as I mentioned earlier, today is going to be about learning some of the basic game rules. So this is a view of the map in Vassal. So as you can see on the map, some of the usual sorts of features you see on this type of game. So for most of you, I'm sure the terrain effects table won't be anything new. Here we have all the various terrain descriptions and all their factors. So I think that's all rather straightforward. So let's now have a look at a unit. In the introductory scenarios, the only unit you will need to know about is the main battle tank, and that's featured here at the top of this display of units. Along the bottom row, underneath the arrow is an 8, indicating the movement factors. The T is tracked. The 10 indicates movement on pathways, and 16 is the movement on paved roads. So just note that to use the pathway or paved roads movement, the unit must start and finish its movement on a road or pathway. So we're currently looking at the southwest of the map of scenario 1, and we're presuming at this stage that it is the American unit's turn. So normally a unit in this instance, we would give it a move command. In the command phase. So we can move the command off. We then can, when in a stack, if you go control click, you can select the top unit and then left mouse button and drag to move. So as you can see there, the M60A3 has 5 movement factors. It's tracked, 7 on pathways and 11 on the road. So it is starting on the road. So we can use the road movement of 11. So that would be 1 and 2. So notice in main battle tank that the vehicle points towards the broad side of the hex, never to the pivot, always to the broad side. So at this point here we need to rotate the vehicle. In MBT, the first rotation is free. So we right mouse button, we can use Control Z or this menu item. So that's 2, 3, 4, and on we could go, 5, 6, 7, 8, till we moved 11 movement points up the road. Also notice that this unit now has this green dot. So what this means is the vehicle has a spot move marker on it. Now that doesn't mean it's spotted, it means for the purpose of spotting it has moved. So this unit has to end its movement on the road and facing down the road. So for the purposes of the demonstration, let's presume this guy was in combat and he was brewed up. So we whack the brewed up marker on there, then we control left click, take the marker off, left click, right click, delete, and place the brewed up marker back on the hex. So only one brewed up marker is required. So if another vehicle was brewed up in this hex, you will still only have the one brewed up marker. Right, so let's say the next unit decided to move along the road as well. So here goes the usual thing, 1, 2, turn counterclockwise, 3, and then he discovers a brewed up marker. This does not stop this unit from moving, but he cannot move into this hex using the road or pathway move. So he has to use the 5T movement. So this unit then has to go back to the start and use its normal movement. So we'll go control, I think it's X, is it? Yep. So the movement first is into the woods. So if we have a look at our terrain effects chart, you'll see that woods is 3 height, 2 movement factors to turn, and for a vehicle it's 3. So he would have to move 3, 4, the free rotation, 5. So that is as far as that vehicle can get. So if we select the next vehicle, he could move 3, 4, 5, and get a free rotation. So you can see what a brewed up marker can possibly do. So to continue the explanation, let's presume this guy was starting in this position. So he has his start, he hasn't moved yet, and he's got a brewed up vehicle in front. Still cannot use road or pathway, but he can use the 5T. So for brewed up, that would be, don't believe there's, oh there we go, smoke brew up. It's just +1 because he's T for tracked. So there'd be 1 for the underlying and 1. So that'd be 2, 3, 4, 5. So there you go, an explanation of brew up. Now all this is discussed in the manual, of course. So I have reset up the southeast of the map, and we're going to pretend that this is the start of the American movement phase of turn 2. And our unit here with the move command, take the move command off, and we'll say this fellow moved 1 hex, and then the Russian player says they have an opportunity fire. So let's have a look at our Russian unit. So he is way over here on the north side of the map. And as you can see, he has an Overwatch command, or as we might know it as an opportunity fire command. So once again, we grab the line of sight thread, we bring it over. So we have a range of 25 hexes. So the base range for a vehicle is 20 hexes. So let's see if our Russian unit can actually spot our American M60. So we have to bring up the spotting range table. So at this stage we know our M60 unit is on a clear hex with a road, and in fact it's moving by road. So the spot move marker, you may remember there's a green circle there, tells us that he has +2. So with a base vehicle spotting of 20, +2 means we can see him out to 40 hexes. So for spotting purposes, this guy is moving and we can spot him out to 40 hexes because it's +2. Also notice along our line of sight we don't have any trees or anything like that to stop our line of sight. So that is all okay at this stage for us to do the combat resolution. So we have now got past the spotting stage. So we've got to compute the AP hit modifiers to determine if the shot hits the M60. So if we bring up the M60 card, or the vehicle data card, you can see on size he is +1. This doesn't affect spotting at all, it only affects the hit calculation. So target size on card, so it's +1. The target is moving, so it's -2 to take us to a net -1. We then move down to Overwatch because that's the command that we're in, and we get a further -1. So our net AP hit modifiers are -2. While we're here, we need to discuss the aspect of the target. So in the basic game there is only the front armor aspect and the rear armor aspect. In this situation the M60 is presenting its front armor aspect to the firer. So meanwhile, let's go back to our -2 here. Now we're at 25 hexes. So we then need to bring up the firing unit vehicle card, data card, and we see 25 hexes is between 20 and 28. So we are at long range. Take note at this stage of the P penetration factor of 73. Right. So we're at long range. The base value then is 30. We figured out our AP hit modifiers are -2, so we go to the -2 row, across to long range, and 24. So we have 24% chance to hit the M60. So at this point we could say these three units are going to have a shot at the M60. So we need to roll to determine if we have a hit. $84 greater than 24, so that's a miss. So we have a hit exactly on 24 from the second vehicle. And we might as well do the third vehicle while we're here. 96, so it's a miss. So we have one hit on the M60. So the next thing to do is check our vehicle data cards again, and then in the lower right hand side you'll see armour. In the basic game we don't use this table, we use these numbers down here. So the frontal armour aspect is 48 and the rear 16. We then compare that value with the long range T72AV value of 73, and it is less, 48 is less than 73, so we have a hit. Also, because 48 to 73 is greater than 10, we have a brew up because it's 10 or greater. So we would then put a brew up counter on the M60. And that is the basic combat AP resolution, or armour piercing direct fire. So it's this table here, the penetration factor minus the armour factor. If it was only 1, it'd be no damage, 2, damage, 3 to 6, knockout, and 7 and greater is a brew up in the basic game. So that's it. AP combat, short and sweet. So far in the presentation we've been down in the weeds looking at movement and basic AP combat. So now we'll broaden our view a little bit to have a look at the structure of the game and the sequence of play. So as you can see on the screen, that is the complete sequence of play that includes all the basic rules, the advanced rules and optional rules. However, when you strip out the advanced and optional rules, you can see just playing with the basic rules is quite accessible. So the sequence of play has the spotting phase at the first step, then you give the commands, then you roll for initiative, and then it's the combat phase, movement phase, and then adjustment phase, and away you go. So let's have a look at the command phase. I spoke earlier about spotting, so that's fairly elementary, but in the first turn you don't do any spotting because both sides are usually coming from off map where they can't see each other. So let's have a look at the command phase and the structure of the commands. So there are 5 commands in MBT. Fire, move, short halt, which is like fire and move, overwatch, similar to opportunity fire, and no command. These are reasonably self-explanatory, with the exception of fire and short halt. To give those commands to a unit, that unit must be able to spot an enemy unit. So you cannot anticipate spotting, you can only give those commands if a unit can spot an enemy unit. Other than that, the commands are quite straightforward. This is the Scenario 1 briefing in the MBT playbook, which is also available for download from the GMT Games website. I'm sure you've all seen similar setups in other games you've played. The main thing in this scenario is that the first side that comes onto the map can set up 3 hexes from its selected edge of the map. Now for our look at the sequence of events, I've decided to have the Soviets entering from the eastern side of the map and our American units from the west. This is the situation on the map at the beginning of turn 2. In turn 1, the Soviet player won the initiative, and so that meant the American units moved onto the map first. You'll see here a movement phase. Second player goes first, followed by the first player. So then the Soviet units entered the map, and we are now in the spotting phase of turn 2. So all our units at the moment have the spot move marker on them, the green dot. Initially, our main interest is in between this American M60 and this Soviet unit here. So we'll grab the lost thread, click that, left mouse button hold, and bring it down to here. So we have a range of 15. On the line of sight, there are no hills or any elevation changes, so both of these units could possibly spot each other. So first off, we'll assess the M60 spot. So our Soviet unit is in a wooden building hex. So we need to have a look at our terrain effects chart. Building wood is light cover, but note the hypertext 1, which is note 1, treated as heavy for spotting. So heavy cover is -3. It's +2 for spot move for a net of -1. So we go to the vehicle column, -1 is 10. So the M60 cannot spot the Soviet unit. But the Soviet unit would be able to spot the American unit in the clear hex. It would only have the +2 spot move factor. So we have a look at these guys up here. Let's see if... so that's a range of 11, but you can see our line of sight intersects this hill hex here with the scrub on it, so they cannot see each other. So for these units here, we can right mouse click, select them all, and then go spot move, and now the spot move marker has been taken off. These guys here, similarly, they can't be seen to there because they have this forest in front of them, all the woods. So we can right click there and take the spot move off. We'll go further down the chart. Now these chaps here, of course, we've already said they're spotted by the other American unit, so they retain their spot move markers. I know some of those underneath haven't got it on, but they should have them on as well. So probably easier for this case to check the spotting line of sight from this unit here to these here. So these guys chuff down the road. So once again, line of sight thread. See clearly the first lot in the unit, it crosses this hill range here, so that's level 1, they're on level 0, so that's blocking line of sight. This one here, it crosses this hex here, so that is blocked line of sight. And these guys here can be spotted at 18 hexes. So what we can do is select these guys here, take off their spot move marker, take off their spot move marker, and these guys here have been spotted. So they were at, I think 18 hexes, was it? 18 hexes, so that'll be no different, I don't think. In fact, the M60 is firing through two scrub hexes, which are considered to be light cover, so that's -2, plus into heavy cover of the buildings, so that's -5. With the spot move being +2, that is a net -3. So that vehicle spotting range is only 3 hexes, so it could definitely not fire at the Russian unit. Right, so let's have a look at our sequence of play again. So we grab this one, we go all the way over here. So now we are up to the command phase. So units are either in their default position or they have spot fire or spot move markers. So we have to give each side their respective commands. So we go to the game pieces map and markers. We can either drag them from there or have them lying around on the board, as I often do. So we're up to 2C. As the Soviet player has the initiative, I'll put the Soviet player commands on first. So up here he'll get a move command. Basically he's not in line of sight. Same for this chap down here. Remembering that you can only put a fire or short halt command if you can spot a unit. Remember this chap down here, he can see this guy and he's in range, so we can give him a fire command, as we can with this chap down here. I've gone ahead and placed the American unit commands. So you can see this guy up here, he's really in a bit of a pickle. So he's moving, and as mentioned, he is spotted by the T-72s down here. So he cannot spot into the building hexes because of the range. So what is our option for the command? Well, we can give him the move command, obviously, and really that's about it, because we just can't spot any of the bad guys. Or no change, but that doesn't really do as much good either. Or an Overwatch, that probably doesn't do as much good either, trying to get away. So we need to think about where we are in the impulse. So as you can see, we're in 2C, which is the place command step, and we're about to roll for the initiative. Now let's say the Americans win the initiative, so that makes them the first player. So they have the first direct fire combat step. Well, it doesn't do the Americans any good because they don't have line of sight or have a spot. So the second player then gets the first shot away. Now if the Soviets win the initiative, they're going to be first player and get a shot on them regardless. So that's their situation up there in the north. It's the same situation down here further south. The T-72s here have the spot on this guy here at the rear. Notice that the line of sight goes through these two scrub hexes. Now that's -2. but it still takes the line of sight for the T72 to 20 hexes by the time you adjust the spot fire, which is +2. So they're similarly in a world of pain because they can't spot going that way because of, as I mentioned, the 2 scrub hexes plus being in a wooden building. So this really underlines, I think, the importance of terrain with your main battle tanks to get those factors up. And further down the track, when we're using helicopters, I think we're going to find that moving in clear hexes with main battle tanks is going to be rather problematic. So that is the Impulse, where we are at the moment. And as you can see, after that, then we go to the movement phase. The second player goes first, then the player who won the initiative, and then basically we cycle around this sequence until we get to the last turn, which in this particular scenario is 11. So I won't put you through that, but I hope this presentation has shown the sequence of play to you, some of the basics of movement, and the AP armor piercing fire movement. So get yourself a copy of the Vassal module and the rules and playbook from GMT Games, and we'll see how we go next time. I'll have a look at some advanced rules and I'll include those in our sequence next time, which should be a little bit more interesting. We'll get have a look at the different hit angles on the target and how that affects fire. So we'll start using the defensive fire table, which is this defensive information table down here. As you see, turret front, turret rear, hull front, hull rear, and etc. So we'll have a look at those last time, deck hits, wheel hits, and all that sort of information and how we incorporate that in the game. So I hope you'll join this little journey with me, and I'll look forward to your company next time. Thanks.